All right, so let's start out by bringing in our reference. This is going to be on my website, drugfreedave.com. You can just go to this little picture here. You can tap on whatever image is there, import, photos, and wherever you saved the image, that's where you would import it. Just hit the check and it'll bring it in. And if you need to move this, just go here. Whoops. Just go back to the picture, hit transform, and then you can move this around wherever you like. And then just tap with one finger and you're back to sculpting. Okay, so first, this will be our, let's delete this and just add a new sphere. The reason we're doing that is because that default sphere is very high resolution and we don't need it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and validate this sphere. Now we go back over here to the scene and you'll see the sphere. So this is your 3D mesh. This is your 3D shape, whatever you want to call it. So right now it's a sphere. Let's tap these three dots and here we have name. So we can rename this mesh. So this is going to be the head. Mesh is in 3D mesh, but we're going to name it head. Okay, here's the snap cube. You'll notice sometimes if it's off center, I'll just snap it so I know I'm looking at the direct center of the project. All right, so let's go to our tools here and find your move tool. Okay, and you can go over here. These are the sliders that change the radius, meaning how big it is, and this is your intensity, so that's how strong it'll move things. You can keep it at default. Mine is going to be pretty big, so just make it, a little bit bigger. Symmetry is on. You'll see this here. So this is symmetry. You'll notice when I tap that, there's only one red dot. Symmetry, it works on both sides at once. And by default, it's doing left and right. If you were to go in here, you would see that it's the red X, and you'd see this red line here. So that's what it is. The default is left and right. So you can change it if you wanted to do top, bottom, front, back, things like that. That's symmetry. Okay, so we need to make this sort of shape. So what we can do is we can stretch this. If we make the move tool really big, we can kind of stretch the head to make that sort of shape. So the only thing is we'll have to work on the back as well because we're just doing left and right. We're not doing front and back. So that's why it's not going to be matched up. We'd have to manually go in here and adjust the back as well. But that's okay. So let's just make this shape. I made this little guy a good while ago, but I don't know what I did with the file. So I've been wanting to make him again, so this is a good excuse. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So now I'm just going to look at, see how I'm just rotating it? I want to look at the top, see how, you just have to think about how you want the back of his head to look. Because right now, the front, the face looks good. So you just shape the back. I think I want the back a little bit more depth. Kind of like that. And then if I look at the side, you want to make sure that he doesn't look funny from those angles either. So I think this is pretty good. Okay, so now he's got some depth to his head and nice shape. Okay, I'll go back to the front, make sure everything looks good, which it does. Okay, so now let's do this shape. So we could use a sphere or we could use a cylinder. Just make the cylinder really soft because his body is a bit cylindrical. Or we could actually use, let's add a box. So we'll add a cube. And one thing that you should take away is there's always multiple ways to do anything you need to do. So we're going to use this box. Let's tap here and name it body. Now you'll notice that this is yellow and I have this validate here. So essentially there's some options that you can do before you officially bring it into your project. So that's what you would do here, like what we're going to do. But I'll talk about that in a minute. And if something is not validated, you can't use all of your tools. So these are the tools here. You see there's only a limited amount. So that's what that is. So once you bring in a new shape, you'll have to validate it before you can use all your tools. But for example, we have our cube here. We're going to press these 3 dots and let's put post subdivision up to 2. So just drag it. Let me move this out of the way. And then division X, we're going to bring that down. And you'll notice that the box will get a bit more like soft. Let's go to the gizmo here. So this is like your controller. This is how you move things around the screen. So just tap the gizmo. You can also tap down here. So now let's move it with this green arrow. We'll just move the body down. Let's turn it so we can kind of put it where we want it. I think something like that is pretty good for now. Okay, let's look back at the front. So you can see it's fairly round. If we go back in here, let's see what happens if I, oh, then it's too round. Let's raise the post subdivision. So what we're doing is we're kind of adjusting the box on a more simplistic level. Once we lock that in, then we can use all the tools. But once you start getting more and more into more complex things, then you'll use this a lot more. But I figured I'd show you because why not? Yeah, I think that's the softest we're going to get, which is fine. So that might work. So let's go ahead and validate it. And then we can go to our tools and find the move tool again. And now I'm just going to try to match this. So I'm going to use the gizmo and move it up some. Maybe even like make it a little shorter with this green round node. And I'll use move, and it looks like it's still a little bit more round. So let's pull down here. Maybe we'll pull it out a little bit. Just kind of shape him so he's a little more pudgy. I think that looks pretty good. I want to give him a belly too. So I'm going to turn it to the right side and just kind of pull out the belly. Okay, and now the back. Let's see the back. Let's pull that into, make that a little more round. So you might need to adjust the size just so you can have a little more control over the shape that you want. I'm going to bring this in. Just kind of move it around, see. I think that looks pretty cute. So one thing I'm noticing in the reference, see the shadow here, which means that this is actually further back, and I want to make it thinner. So I'm going to use this blue sphere to shrink it. So I'm using the gizmo again, and I'll use that blue sphere to shrink it. So I think that's good. So let's take the smooth tool. We'll make it a little bit bigger. So with the smooth tool, we're just going to smooth this out some. It's pretty soft. So if I hit 2 fingers undo, you can see that it's pretty soft. So just be aware that sometimes when you use the smooth tool, it does affect the shape of your object, because our object is really low resolution. I'm not going to go that deep into resolution, but if it's higher, then it's a little more sturdy. It's a little more, it's better for details. But this is very low resolution, so it's easier to manipulate, easier to move around and things like that. Okay, looks pretty good. I think I like that. So I'm noticing that the shape is a little bit different in the head, so I'm just going to adjust this. Oh, I'm still on smooth. I need to go back to move tool. Okay, it's pretty good. You might smooth down the tops a little bit. All right, that's a cute shape. Okay, that's pretty good. So let's do the legs now. So we'll go to our scene menu. We'll add, and let's do For this, they look like spheres, so let's do spheres. So we'll add a sphere. Let's go to Gizmo. And we can't see it because it's inside the head currently, but we'll move it down with the arrow. I'll rotate and move it back. And now we can shrink it with this big orange ring around it. So that's scale. So we can shrink it. And let's hit mirror. So we're hitting mirror. So now we're going to mirror. When you move this, there's going to be two of them. And when you go to your scene, you'll see that it says mirror. And then you have our sphere. So let's go to the mirror in red. Tap the three dots. Hit name. And let's name this legs. Okay, so I tapped on the one leg. Because remember, ultimately it's just one leg. But it's mirrored. So that's why we're seeing two. And to make that make more sense, if I was to drag it out of the mirror, you'll see it's just one. So let's stretch this with this green ring. Let's move it up. And it looks like they should be, it's actually a pretty good place. I think that's pretty good. So right around there. I'm going to go ahead and validate it. And then I'm going to use move. And I'm going to try to make it a little bit, I'm just going to move this a little bit down. Let's turn symmetry off. Okay, so I'm just kind of stretching the legs manually a little bit. Okay, I think that's pretty good. This, I might need to stretch a little bit, and I actually want to move the top part a little bit like that. Actually, no, do I want to do that? Maybe just move it up. But I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to bring the belly out a little bit more. Down here. I'll bring the head down a little bit. Okay. All right, so the leg looks pretty good. I think I might want to take Gizmo on the leg and just stretch it a little bit. Okay. So now let's go ahead and add a floor. So we'll go to our scene. We'll add a box and go to this little material tab here on the top left. And we'll turn smooth shading off. And let's go into these three dots. And let's bring the division X all the way down. Because it's just a box. And it doesn't need to be high resolution. See, it's only 8. It's only because we're just using it as the floor. So we'll just make it bigger and then just make it kind of flourish. And here's a little pro tip that I always do. If you turn the grid on down here, and if you don't see the grid, even if you hit front, then just go into your camera and make sure you're in orthographic. But if you do see it, then what we want to do is line the top part of this box, which is the floor, to this red line. So just go to your scene and just select everything. Let's make it a little smaller. And then just use the green arrow and the gizmo to bring it up and just line that up with the floor. Doesn't have to be perfect, but the reason I do this is because I usually bring these things into Blender, and that's just, it's nice to have it right on that floor. Okay, so I'm going to go back in and select everything except the box, and I want to see how his legs, they don't look like that. I'm going to bring everything else down to about there. That looks about right. Okay, so we'll trim the legs. So let's go to our scene and let's make sure that we have everything labeled. So we have legs here, which this sphere we can, oops, what happened? This sphere we can bring back into the legs and you see both legs. For now, I'm going to leave it out. But this is the leg, so let's just label it. And this box is the floor. So let's label that floor. And let's make sure we save our progress. And let me know if you're watching this in like half speed on YouTube, because you can slow down the speed and watch it slower if you need to. Okay, so leg, let's go to the leg. Let's add a sphere. And these are going to be for these little tiny toes here. I actually don't know if I did that with a tool, or I might have done that with a tool. Anyway, let's turn the grid off. You can take another sphere and shrink it. Let's go ahead and move it kind of into place. So we're just going to move it almost like it's, you know, his little foot. And then you just want to squish it down like so and move it in a little closer. You can stretch it and kind of just make it work for however you want his foot to look. I think I wanted like just something like that. Maybe a little smaller. And a little more closer inside. I think that's pretty good, actually. Yeah, I think that's cute. All right, so I like the way that looks. So let's go ahead and take the sphere and the leg and just join them together. And let's trim. So you can't really see below this box, but if you hit X-ray, then you can actually see through the box. So let's take our trim tool. Let's take the rectangle. And let's make a rectangle, and everything inside of it will be trimmed, will be cut. So I'm just going to do it a little bit below the surface. I'm not going to do it right at the line. I'm going to do it a little bit below, somewhere like that. And then I'm just going to trim. And that's perfect. Okay, I don't know if I had little buns on this guy too. Okay, so you'll notice that we joined these two together. So we joined, we just hit join for the leg and the foot. If you join, they're not actually one piece. They're kind of just like grouped. So if you join something and later you want to separate it, you can actually go in here and you can separate topology. So you can, wait a minute, do I have the foot? Let me turn off X-ray. Can I not separate? Could not separate, the object has only one. I thought, oh, you know what I did? Okay, so what I did is when I trimmed them both together, they joined as one. So I think that's what happened. I don't think I'm still not able to smooth them, but they did join together, so I can't separate them. It gets a little technical. I kind of understand why, but it's not worth explaining. But if I didn't trim them and they were just like a sphere here and a sphere here, then you could separate them. But once you trim, then you won't be able to. But they're still not one piece, like I was saying. So what we want to do is voxel remesh. And when you voxel remesh two or more pieces, those pieces become one single piece that you can then smooth. You can just smooth as one. So let's see, where is it at? So if you go here and you see voxel, and even though, see now it's just leg. So, but it's really these two pieces. So you can voxel remesh this down here. Right now it says 150, and 150 is pretty good. 150 is good if you don't want the mesh to become really high resolution, like it doesn't have a lot of detail, and you still want to be able to make it smooth and kind of manipulate it, then 150 is great. If it was something where I had a lot of detail and I didn't want to lose it, I might do like 200 or 250 or 300. But if it was something that I was like, I wanted it to be really soft and I wanted to use smooth and make it extremely smooth and almost like melt together, then I would do like 50 or something. You know what I mean? So 150 is just like a decent median for joining two pieces together and being able to smooth them and keep most of the shape. So, and of course you can go 140, 160, 170, but you get it. It's just two spheres and a leg, so it's not that big of a deal. So voxel remesh 150, and then you would just hit remesh. I'm going to show you how I do it. You'll notice that that's now together. I'll hit undo. There's a shortcut. I go like this, same number, hit remesh, and it's just easier. So now we can take smooth, and we can just smooth this section, because now his feet are together. And if you want, you can like hit solo or something and you can smooth the bottom and stuff like that. But that looks good. I like it. If I go here, and now you can bring this leg back into that mirror, and now you have two legs. Easy peasy. Okay, let's see the body. I'm just going to adjust this a little bit. I feel like that has to be a little bit more. Maybe this part comes out a little bit more. Okay, I think I like that. I'm like dead set on like making it as close to the reference as I can. But I guess I'm always like that. I don't like how sharp this feels. See this? I don't really like how sharp that feels, so I'm going to go to the head and just like pull that out some. I want his head nice and round from any and all angles. So, and I'll probably do a lot more adjusting once we're done with the tutorial, but I want to show you some of the things that I'm doing as well. Okay. So now for the arms, let's go ahead and go here and let's add a sphere. We'll use the gizmo. We'll move it up, over. We'll shrink it. We'll move it down. And let's go ahead and validate it. And let's use the move tool. And now we're just going to stretch it. So we're just going to do some real sculpting and just kind of stretch it with the tools. Go to the side. You can use the gizmo to kind of position it. Usually the arm would be sort of around here. His little belly sticking out. And I'll just make move. And of course, I want to line this up a little bit more with the body. Try to make it match up. So his little hand is kind of down by his leg. Okay, so now I'm just looking at all the different sides because that's what you want to do. You want to make sure you're looking at all the different sides of your creation. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Let's make sure we save. So now we want to add these little fingers. So we're going to use inflate for that, but if we try to use inflate now, since it's not really high resolution, it's going to be hard to get a lot of detail. So if we use inflate, let's say we want to make this thumb, so we tap on the arm and we go in a circular motion. So circular motion off of the screen and then go back, circular motion. It's actually not too terrible, to be honest. It's not too bad. So I think we can probably work with this. If you needed to make it a little bit longer, you can just like, you can kind of repeat. But that's not too bad, actually. I don't know if I did it in the right position, but... Okay, so the thumb kind of points down, so I'm just going to do it right around here. One, here's the second one, and then maybe a third one. And then we'll take a look. That's pretty good. I'm going to get rid of this. Let's tap on the floor and then go to our scene and just press this little eye so we can hide it so it's not in our way. So now let's just do, I think he has, I don't know how many fingers he has. I can't remember. But we'll do another finger here. So maybe this is like that's the thumb. There we go. We do something like that. And then maybe we do another one here. So then we do something like that. That's cute. I'm going to use the move tool and just... This arm's a little puffier than I have here, so I want to make sure... I want to try to match the character's likeness. Okay, that's pretty good. So I eventually want to make the pineapple. I'm not sure if I want to do it in this tutorial. I guess I will. Yeah, I guess I'll do it. Let's take the arm and voxel remesh it. That way we can smooth these fingers. So remember what I was saying? If it's kind of low, then it's going to be too soft. If you try to smooth it now, they're just going to disappear. So if we voxel remesh, I'm going to use the shortcut, but you can go up here, voxel, and let's bring this to like 150 or so. It doesn't have to be perfect. And hit remesh. Okay, you'll see it does this, but then you can smooth it, and it keeps a lot more of that shape. So I'm pressing pretty softly because I don't want to lose a lot of the detail. Okay, but that looks pretty good. I feel like I want to bring this arm out a little bit there. I'm trying to push. You can actually, if you're on a mesh, you can actually push it from like inside other meshes, which is pretty cool. I'm just going to rotate it a little bit, I think. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think I'll take it. I might have used a tube for these, if I'm being honest. But sphere looks pretty good, but you can also use a tube if you need. Maybe I'll show you how. Okay, so that's one arm. What we can do is take this arm and clone it. So now we have two. We can go to symmetry, and we can go down to flip object, and we want to flip it from the left side to the right side, so we'll hit X, and now we have it on the right side. And we want to move it so he's holding his pineapple. So if we just try to rotate it now, it's not going to be helpful. So what we want to do is move this pivot point, which is the center of the gizmo. There's always going to be a pivot point assigned to each mesh. There's a lot of factors that kind of go into it. But the good thing is, let's hit X-ray. So now we can see this arm. And if we want to move this arm like in a realistic way, the pivot point would be in the shoulder. So for example, if we want to move our arm, the place where our arm originates is in our shoulder. So you can just go to pivot, and then you can take these arrows. Let's hit align. That way it just keeps our gizmo easier to use. So let's move it up and over. And I'm going to do right around here, because that's kind of like where we don't want to go too high. Even though it goes up there, that's kind of like in the head. So let's go to right, probably around there. And we'll just hit pivot. Okay, and we can hit X-ray. So now when we move it, well, let me hit pivot again and maybe move it a little more in the middle. Okay, so now when we move it, it's rotating in a more realistic way. I mean, it's not like a human really, but it's still an arm. So if I move this up and then I rotate it, kind of something like that, then it looks like he's holding something. So of course you can kind of adjust it as you need, but I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and save. Okay, so the ears are going to be really simple. Let's add a sphere in our scene. And let's make sure we'll label this. So let's hit the name. Let's name it ears. This sphere is the arm up. And this one is just the arm. Okay. We can bring back the floor if we want. So now let's go to this sphere we just made. ears. So let's move it up. We can go ahead and hit mirror. We'll move it over. We can rotate. So we'll move it back. We'll shrink it a little bit. Move it down. So now we're just going to match up where we see them in the art. So let's stretch it a little bit this way and then rotate with this blue ring. Let's rotate. I think that looks pretty good. I think that looks pretty spot on. Okay, I want to make sure I have enough room for the other little puff thingy. Okay, I think that looks great. So now, let's go to our scene and let's clone this. So let's take this mirror and let's clone the whole thing. And this is going to be ear. Let's rename this ear to ear puffs. Okay. And now we'll go to the original ear and let's just trim it. So we can validate it. We'll take trim. We're on rectangle. So let's just go ahead and trim probably around there. Okay. Okay, so now we're seeing these other ears, the ear puffs. So let's make sure we go to our scene and tap on the ear puffs. And then we can use the gizmo, the larger orange ring, to shrink. Okay, we have something like that. Move it down a little bit more. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Maybe stretch it a little bit. Okay. So now, of course, I want this to be not as ugly, this ear here. So I want to voxel remesh it at like 150. And then I'm going to take smooth and just go to town, smooth it out. Okay, that looks great. This part looks good. It looks a little bit, I want to make it softer. So I'm going to voxel remesh it lower at like 115. So I remesh it at 115 and now it should be, it's just going to be softer around the edges, which is what I want. Okay, and I want to take this sphere and I don't want it to be sticking out so much. So let's go ahead and validate the ear puffs. We'll use the gizmo and then we'll just shrink it like that. Perfect. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to bring this ear and just drag it out, the ear puffs, and drag them out. So now the reason I'm doing that is because it's easier to work on one side. So now's a good time to really adjust it and make sure that it's the size that you want and then the placement as you want. See, I'm looking at the top. It's not that much higher than the actual head. So I think I need to move mine a little bit this way, and a little bit lower. I think that might work. I'm going to go to the ear and just do some little adjustments that I think I need. Don't forget that you always can do that. Don't ever be afraid to make changes and make adjustments. It's part of the gig. All right, I think that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to bring these back into their mirrors. And then they're on the other side. Perfect. Okay, so I want to take the head and I want to give it more resolution. There's another way that you can do that. If you go to these if you go here, and actually it changes depending on what you are, so don't get lost. on that. It's the one right next to the scene. If you go to multi-resolution, then you can actually subdivide. So if we subdivide, what it's doing is, let me hit undo. So if I really quickly, if I turn on the wireframe, so this is what the shape is made of. 6,146 of these squares. So if I go here and I subdivide, then it's dividing each one of these squares into more squares, smaller squares, which in turn is making it more dense, which in turn allows it to hold more detail. So if we voxel remeshed, it would do the same thing. It's just, this gives you a little more, you don't always have to voxel remesh it to give it more or less resolution. But it gets confusing, so I'm not going to go too much into it. So we gave it some more resolution. And what do we want to do now? So we need to make the shape of these eyes. Let's turn off this wireframe. All right, so what we can do is use clay and sub. Okay, we'll make it a little smaller. Make sure symmetry's on. We could use mask, but I'll show you this first. So we really need to figure out where we want these eyes to be. This is the trickier part. So if I make these spheres like this, so I'm just kind of drawing in the shape I want for the eyes and trying to follow the reference. Okay, I think that's pretty good, actually. I think that's not too bad. So now that I have that, I have the framework, I like it, I can just use the move tool and I can just adjust these. So I feel like they need to be a little bit bigger. So I can just adjust it. Okay, that's pretty good. So now I'm going to go to smooth, and I'm just going to smooth this out. So now that the eye parts are nice and smooth. Okay, and you can feel free to adjust it as much as you need. You know me, I'm always adjusting something. So now we have the little spots where the eyes can go. So let's go to our scene. Let's add a sphere. We're going to use those for eyes, of course. So we'll just use the gizmo and move those into place. So up, forward, we can shrink. And you can just stick to one side if you want. But I like to, let me go back. I like to sometimes just do the mirror and do this whole thing just because it looks nice when I make a video of it. So we'll put it back in the head. And I want it to be more flat. I don't want it to be kind of like sticking out like that. So I'm just going to go like this, make them nice and flat. And now it's just a matter of placing them in the right place and making them the right size that we like. Move them closer, maybe rotate. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So I'll move it a little bit closer. So I'm going to validate. So it's still a mirror. Let's go ahead and name the mirror eyes whites. This is the whites of the eyes. And I'm going to take this and clone it. And this one I'm going to name eyes P1. You can name them pupils. I just always call pupils P1. I don't know where I got that from. But let's hide this one for now and just deal with the eye whites. So I'm going to take move. And I mean, I like it. They look pretty good, but see how I just like the shape of these eyes? This eye just needs to be adjusted a little bit more this way. The bottom is a little more flat. I'm going to pull this. Okay, that looks pretty good. think I like it. Yeah, I think that looks good. So I like how the eye's looking. I like the shape. I think we're in good shape. I kind of feel like I need to make the head bigger. Is it just me or am I crazy? You can always take the head, the eyes. I'm going to unhide this and take those, the P1 as well. Anything that's over here, so we need the ears, ear puffs, ear. So I want to just make everything bigger. Should I include the mirrors? Let's see if I include the mirrors. I kind of want it to be in the middle, you know? I guess I can always make it bigger later. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take move on the head and I'm just going to make it wider with the move tool for now. I'm going to take the eyes and I'm going to move them in a little bit more. Oh, wait a minute. What did I do here? Oh, that's right. I forgot I have these. So we'll go back to the sphere and I just want to move them over a little bit. I'm going to stretch the head a little bit. So the reason I'm doing this is because I feel like I have less space in between the eyes than my reference does, my other sculpt. So I'm actually going to pull this out a little bit. That might help. And I'm going to open that up a little bit and just give myself a little more space. Since I really love the way my original one looks, I'm really paying attention to all of the details. I want to take move and I want to make sure I move the back of the head as well. I want to make the back of the head nice and wide. There we go. That feels much, much better. And of course, don't forget these little ears and ear puffs. Now that we adjusted our head, we have to adjust these as well. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And I'm also going to adjust the placement of them, like where they are on the head. So I think we're going to do there. That feels pretty good. Okay. All right, so back to the eyes. If you'll notice, we have like an eyelash here. So I'm going to do that with the tube tool. So we'll just use tube. Wait, are the eyes big enough? Gotta make sure the eyes are big enough. They look pretty big. Yeah, I think they look fine. So with the tube tool, what we'll do is take path and we'll start here. Kind of starts there. So let's start here. We'll tap down and drag, let go. So we can adjust these two nodes now. And then we can add other nodes just by tapping on the line. And you see I'm just lining it up with the curve. And this one I'll stretch, so I'll make this curve here, and then I'll stretch this up. I might need to add another one there to make that little curl on his eyelash. Okay, so something like that. So now we'll go ahead and hit this little green dot and we have the general shape. So we'll use the radius, we'll tap that twice. And now we can make this, oops. Tap it so all three of them are selected, and then you can adjust each node, the size of each node, which is what we want. So then it gets bigger back here. So I'm just using these little orange nodes to make it bigger. Okay, so something like that. Oh, it looks like I have this a little bit wider. Okay, so something like that. So what I want to do is hit profile now, because I really like the way that looks with the profile. It looks a little big now, huh? It looks a little too big. I'm going to make it a little smaller. So I'm just going to go through and shrink all of these little sections. Until I really get it how I want. I think that looks pretty cute. So now I'm going to go back to these three little dots down here, post sub to 2, and bring the division X down so that it gets nice and soft. So I bring it down to 8. I think I like 8. So now let's turn snap off, and we want to make sure that this edge is going into the eye. So I'm just going to drag that in. See how it disappears? So we just kind of want to make it seamless. So it looks like it's coming from inside of there. So I think that looked great. Okay. So now I'm just going to mirror this so we have it on both sides. And then I'm going to validate it. Perfect. So you'll see that the shape is a little different. So you'll have to use your tools, like maybe drag is a good tool. Now remember that we're in a scene, and see this mirror, this is the lashes. They accidentally they got nestled under the head. So I'm going to take this mirror, long press, and just drag it out. Let's drag it over the head. So these are our lashes. So just rename them before I forget. Do a quick save. Okay, so that's good. So now for these tubes, and they're mirrored, so we don't have to have symmetry on. If you want to make it more like that, then we need to probably smooth this out some. And then you can use drag and really just drag it into that shape. So I'm going to drag so that that's a little bit more flat. Make drag a little bit smaller so I can really get it to curve the way that I want it to. Make it a little more round. Okay, that's pretty good. I think I like it. And of course you can adjust it as much as you need. The only thing that I don't like about it is I feel like mine is a little bit curved, a little bit more than I want. So I'm using a line. I'm going to hit front, and the gizmo is actually at the point of the lash, so I should be able to just rotate it and it should go up some. That's actually it. That actually worked out pretty well. And I'm going to take move, and I'm just going to push it and kind of raise it up a little bit. Just so it's at the exact point that I want. I'm going to make move tool a little bit smaller. And, just adjust it. So that feels a bit better to me for now. Okay. So let's go back to the eyes. Let's tap our scene. And remember these eyes that we hid? So we'll take the sphere. We'll use gizmo, and now we can pull that forward. And you'll start to see it. If we pull it all the way up, then you can see it better. All right, so I'm going to rotate it because I just want it to be round. So it looks like I need to make it a little smaller maybe. And I'm just going to adjust it until it works on like the surface of the eye. And that might even entail taking the eyes and like maybe smooth. You can take smooth with the eyes till it sort of move them back a little bit. So this part is a little tricky, so just take your time and adjust the eyeballs. You might have to go do something like this and just stretch them out a little bit. And I'm going to stretch them this way, maybe make them a little smaller, stretch them this way a little bit more, move them in. There we go. So you want them kind of on the inner, kind of like closer to the middle. So you only have that little bit of white going here. So that can be a little bit tricky. So just take your time with that. What did I do? Let's hit save. Okay. All right, so we have some little eye dots. And these I just like to make for fun. Let's add 2 spheres. Or add a sphere, excuse me. So we'll use our gizmo. Oops, let me make this a little smaller. We'll move it up. Move it forward, we'll shrink it. Move it up again. We can use mirror. And we're just going to add these in. I kind of do this because I put a lot of time drawing animals, and they always have this, that little spot there. Like if you think of like big cats, they have that like cool little spot there over there in this area of their eyes. Okay, so I think I like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and validate and then use drag and kind of make a little shape that I want. So sharp on one side and then a little bit of like a teardrop kind of shape. Looks pretty good. So now I'm going to go with my gizmo and I'm going to take it off of a line. That way it's aligned with the shape and not like the project. And I just want to flatten it up a little bit. So I might have to rotate it a little bit. There we go. And then of course you can adjust the size and the placement as you need. Okay. Oh, and for the mouth. The mouth, there's 2 ways to do it. You can use a tube and kind of do it that way. Will that be easier? That might be the easier way to do it. Yeah, let's just do that. So we'll use a tube. I'm going to turn the grid back on. Make sure you hit front and tube, path. Let's use this little magnet. So now let's say we do like this. Okay, so maybe 2 on this side, 2 on that side, or just whatever, so it's like even. So now we'll just hit this. We can use our gizmo, we can move this down and forward. Notice how the gizmo's not in the middle. We should be able to actually, let's see if we can do it now. If we do pivot, center, pivot, that will adjust the pivot to the middle. Let's make this round. So we're going to go here to these 3 little dots, post sub to 2, and then bring the division X all the way down, and we should be able to get it round. That's kind of round. That's more round. I'll bring the division X up to 3. Let's see, maybe that's what we need. Yeah. So these numbers are, the division X is 3. Excuse me. Division X is 5. Post subdivision is 3. As I lose my voice. All right, so let's validate. And then let's pivot, center, pivot again. And let's kind of move it to the spot. Maybe I'm actually going to turn off the grid and you know what, that's fine. I think that's fine. Let's use the move tool. Well, let's use the gizmo and make it a little shorter. Made it a little long. And then use move and we'll turn symmetry on. And then with the move tool, we can just sort of make it into like a little smiley shape. Uh-oh. When that happens, it means that it's in a mirror. See that? See how it did that? That means that it's in a mirror. So let's go here. See this tube? Let's bring it out of this mirror. This mirror is the eye dots, so let's go ahead and name it. I always do that. So we'll go back to this tube, and now with the move tool, we should be able to just make it into a more of a smiley shape. Oop, symmetry wasn't on. Make sure symmetry's on. Okay, that's pretty cute. And you can try to smooth it if you want it a little more round. Okay, and there's another way to do this. So I'm just going to show you because why not? So this would probably work fine. I might just flatten it a little bit. So that would probably work fine, but I kind of want it a little more round. So I'm going to hide that and add a sphere. Okay, I'll bring the sphere up to the same kind of position. I'm going to shrink it. Like so. And now what I want to do is pull it from the middle. I want to pull it away from each other. So what I'm going to do is validate it. What we need to do is hit symmetry and then go to vertex and hit vertex. And then we're going to use this red arrow and we're going to stretch this. Okay, that looks pretty good. Yeah, I think I like that. So now I'm going to just hit symmetry, turn it off, and then hit vertex, auto, and pivot, center, pivot. So it looks all good and great, but if I try to move it, it's going to look messed up. So if I try to move it, see? So I'm just going to voxel remesh it at like we'll do like 140 or so. It's very big for what it is, but that's fine. So we remeshed it. Now I can smooth it. And now I can take move. Or actually, let's just resize it because it's a bit big now. So I'll just resize it. You can stretch it a little bit if you need. But I think that looks pretty good. And we find the right spot. That'll make it easier to find the right size. I think something like that. And now we can just take move. Symmetry is on, and I'm just gonna kind of move it until he looks happy. Just a little smile. And maybe I'll just smooth it out. And then with the gizmo, I want to just flatten it a little bit. And push it a little bit more into the face and maybe rotate it so it's kind of going along with the shape of the head. Actually, I don't mind it sticking out a little bit. I'm just going to hit move. See how it's like straight and the head is round? So I'm just going to use move and just go like that a little bit. And then you can move it in. And it's a little bit nicer with the head. It's still a little bit big now that I'm looking at the original. So I'll make it smaller. And maybe move it up a little bit. Yeah, I think that feels right. So we'll go ahead and save. Now, if you have quad remesher, you can use quad remesher. So you would go here. I'm just going to turn these off. And then you can do like half. So you could lower the topology of this. If I turn on the wireframe, this is very dense. It doesn't need to be. If you don't have quad remesher, you can go here, miscellaneous, and you can use decimate. So if we hit decimate, see it's making it smaller. Decimate, decimate, decimate. It's making it smaller, but see how it's not very like pretty? It's not very efficient. It works, but it's not very efficient. So if I go back to how it was, and I use quad remesher, I could do like half. So that should cut it in half. Half again. Maybe half again. Maybe even half again. Now it's 1000 something, but see how clean that looks? So that's what people mean when they say clean topology. Of course, there's different levels to that, but essentially, this is much cleaner than just using decimate. Okay, and I think that's only available for iOS as well, just so you know. The legs are also very, the resolution is very high, so I can actually bring the resolution down on them as well. But I'm going to use quad remesher. Okay, so it looks pretty good, and now they're much less of the size. I can probably make them smaller too. So let's save. We'll turn the wireframe off. Okay. I guess we need to do... Oh, the eyes are actually really big here. Huh. It looks good, though. All right, so let me save. I gotta take a break. I'll be back. All right, we're back. I had to deal with the little one. Okay, so for the pineapple, let's use a sphere. Oh no. I don't know how she knows when I'm starting to work again. So let's move it up. And I'm going to validate. And I want to make it into a shape, pineapple shape. So with symmetry, I'm going to use X, which is left and right, and Z, which is front and back. If you tap show line, then you can see front and back. You can see the red line and the blue line. What did I just do? I'm always doing something. Okay, so now we can try to make this more pineappular, more like a pineapple. Okay, so maybe something like that. Oh, looks like the sides are weird. I'll make the move tool smaller so I can just kind of adjust it. Might even be better with a cylinder, to be honest with you. Cylinder might be easy. There's always like multiple ways to do all these things. The bottom I want to make a little more flat. It looks decent. So I'm going to take smooth and just kind of smooth it. Now how can we make it even more? So we could do it the same way I did this, which is a little... Yeah, I guess we'll do it that way. So first let's make these little leaves. So let's name this pineapple. And now let's add a cylinder. We'll use Gizmo and move it up. And once I do this once, you'll be able to kind of, it'll all make sense. So I'm going to use this large orange ring to shrink it. And then I'm going to use snap over here. It's set to 90, so that's going to snap it 90 degrees in whatever direction. So I'm just going to snap it forward towards us, 90 degrees. And then I'm going to shrink it. And you know what? Let's take this cylinder and just clone it and hide it for now. This one I'm going to rename Stalk. Okay. So I want to lower the... We'll tap the three dots. Post sub can go to 2. Division X can go down. Maybe even 1 linear. Let's see. Maybe we'll do 1 linear. Bring this down a little. Actually. Nah. Let's do it at like 18. Maybe even 24. We'll see. I'm going to make it a little bit more thin. And I'm going to validate it. So I want to make it pointy. So again, normally we would do left and right and then front and back, but remember we rotated it, so it's different now. I think we need a Y. Y is actually going to be front and back because we rotated it. So now when I use move, and I'm actually going to go back to symmetry and set it to local. That way everything is based off of this particular object and not the whole project. World is the whole project. Local is the specific mesh you're working on. So I should be able to just make this nice and pointy. Oh, I guess it is even. Just looked like it wasn't even. So we'll make that nice and pointy like that. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And actually, I don't know why I rotated it this way. I think I'm going to rotate it back. I'm going to use move. And now I only want left and right. So let's go to symmetry and turn off Y. We'll just keep it on X. So left and right, I'm going to make this big. And now we're just going to give it like a nice curve. So I'm going to make that nice and big and just push up on the bottom to give it a nice curve. Okay. So let's look at the top here. And we just want to make maybe 5 times around. So we're going to use the radial symmetry. So, okay, so we have the stalk. Let's add a radial repeater. That's what these are called, repeaters. So we'll add a radial. And you can see it's already doing some nice stuff. So it's only adding to the y-axis. So I'm going to make this 5. Maybe even 6. It looks pretty good. And you kind of see where I'm going with this. So let's tap on the stalk and not the radial. Let's go to gizmo. And we can kind of move it so maybe so it's a little wider. So maybe something like that. And we can move it down into our pineapple. So of course you can kind of rotate it, I think. Oops. Let me turn off snap and do pivot, center pivot. Okay, so this one is the original one. So I'm going to solo that, and then I'm going to move the pivot. So I'm going to hit pivot and go over and down, hit pivot again. And also, if you don't have solo, you can, these shortcuts, I think you get to them here. See these add shortcuts? These 3 lines. So this is where you can add and remove whatever shortcuts you want there. Okay, so now we can unsolo, and now we've set the pivot, so we should be able to rotate these a little bit easier. It looks like there's still, the bottom part is still a bit, they're kind of intersecting, which I really don't like that much. I guess it may not matter, actually, because that whole thing might just be underneath. Let me bring them closer together. Rotate them out a little bit. You don't really see it when they're rotated out like that. So I actually think that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to take this stalk and I'm going to go to, let's see. Oh, there we go. So I tap on the stalk, quad remesher, and I just want to make the size smaller. See, this is 3000, but there's 6 of them. And I just like to make things a little bit more efficient. So I'm going to hit half, and then half again, and then half again. Still looks pretty good. Much, much, much smaller. So now I'm going to clone. So it's still under the same radial. But now for this one, I'll move it up a little bit. You know what, though? Let's see. I don't know if I can adjust. Yeah, I'm going to delete it. So what I'm going to do is take this whole radial and clone it. This way, I can go here and I can make this 5. So now we'll go to that cloned one. It's 5. We can rotate it a little bit, maybe make them a little closer together. Which one's the original one? I want to be on the original one. Okay, so I'm going to make it a little bit more, rotate it a little bit more on a different little angle here. I'll move it down, and then I want to rotate so it's kind of in the middle, like that. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to clone it. I'll take this, and maybe I'll set this radial to 4. Go to the stalk. I'll adjust this. Maybe I want to make them a little bit further away or something. So I'll adjust that, and then I want to rotate. I think I want to adjust a little bit more. And again, you're going to have to kind of move them, it looks like, because they can get a little bit messed up. I'm going to bring this stalk out so I can just adjust it on its own. Sometimes that's easier. Oh, you know what else I forgot? I forgot to make these smaller. Let's go back here. And again, this is tricky. Okay, so this is the bottom one. This is the middle one. I'm going to use a line. Whenever I need to move it straight down, I'm just going to use a line. Like that. That's better. This, let's make it smaller. Let's make sure that it's nice. I'm going to take a line off. Solo. Rotate it a little bit more. I can put it back into the radial. If it gets tricky, just take them out of the radial. That's much easier. I'm going to use a line again. I might want to do this. Kind of stretch it. It's kind of cool. Oops. I might just clone it. Oh no, you know what I have to do? I can't. I need to clone everything. So we'll clone. Then we'll take this. Do I have 3 on the top? I might have 4 on the top. Let's change this number. Ooh. Just going to add the radial and make this 3. And then make the size smaller. And maybe stretch it a little bit. Yeah, so something like that. So you have to, kind of make it work, but you kind of get the idea. It's fun, but sometimes, it can get a little bit. Oh, and they're not like rotated enough for me. I didn't rotate them, I think, the best. So for example, I'm just going to take these and validate them. So that's that one. This one's the bottom one. This radial, I'm going to rotate like that. This one, I'm just going to validate both of those. So that way I can rotate them. Oh, there's two here. Yeah, there's two there. So somehow I kind of got messed up, it seems like. But whatever, I'm going to validate and then just Oh no, I'm not even mean to validate that one. So I'll rotate that one. This one. Where's my gizmo? Let's do pivot, auto, or center. Pivot, there it is. And I'll rotate. But it's actually not in the middle. I kind of want it in the middle. Pivot, center, pivot. I'll just move it manually. I'm not sure why it's not going in the middle. So we'll make this smaller. And then I just want to make sure that it's nice and... Oh well, I think that works. It's a pineapple. All right, so next we'll take this other cylinder, the one that we hid, and let's move it. Let me solo it. Let's take a look. All right, let's rotate it. Let's do snap and rotate it. Let's make it pretty small. So we'll do post subdivision to 2, and then we'll move division X down. Make it really small like that. And maybe we'll make it a bit wider. So we can just use the settings here to make it a bit wider. So now we'll unsolo. So this is somewhere in the middle. Let's use X-ray if we can see exactly where it is. Is it in the middle? It looks like it's in the middle. Let's go back to the front. Okay, so seems like it's pretty good. Let's go ahead and validate. And then let's go to our scene and let's add another radial. We can take it, actually let's leave it on X-ray for now. Where's my gizmo? Where's my gizmo? Let's do pivot, center, pivot. Oh, I have to tap the cylinder. That's what I had to do. If you have it on radial, then it won't do what you want it to do. So now let's expand these. We can turn X-ray off since we can see them now. And what we want to do is go back to the radial, and maybe we want to do more. So let's do, yeah, let's do that. We'll go back to our cylinder, and maybe let's take snap off, and we'll rotate it down. Okay. So we can take this and clone. And this one is actually quite big. So let's take this other one and maybe we'll rotate it a little bit less, but we'll make it smaller. And let's move it up and like a little bit more underneath. And maybe we want to I don't know. I think I like this. I think I want it a little bit more nestled in there. Okay. So these, maybe we'll make these smaller. And maybe we'll just make more of them. So we can go back to the radial and we can make a couple more. Maybe even smaller. Let's make these smaller. 2. Let's make these smaller. We'll move it out a little bit more. And let's add a bunch more. And I'm going to switch the position of these because this one is like the top one. But of course, you can be really creative with the way you do the. Oh, why does it keep doing that? You're killing me. It keeps going all the way down there. So for the radio, let's add a bunch more of these. We'll add 9. For these, let's make them a little smaller. And let's add, oh, this is 8. We can do 9. Maybe we'll do 10. We'll do 10. So these I'm going to clone. We'll go to this one. And I'm going to use align so I can just move it straight down and then out. Actually, I'm going to take it off of align so I can try and move it actually straight out. Okay, I feel like I need to rotate it a little bit more down. And actually, I can probably, I'm going to clone this and hide them. But this one I think we can probably just clone. Just use align and just move it down. Oh, I guess I do need to move it out a little bit, but clone. Oh, it's so, oh, maybe that's just the sphere. I think that's just the sphere being weird. Let's clone, bring it down here. And let's clone again, make another one. And then we can go to the one that we hid. We can bring that all the way down. And then we can make it maybe smaller, move it in a little bit more. And we can make it less if you want, but I don't think we really need to make less. I think that's fine. If you want to get crazy, you can do another one, make them even smaller, and move them inside. Like so. I think it's cute. I love it. I'm going to take the move on the actual sphere and just kind of make them a little more equal there. Okay. So now all these look pretty good. I might have to, let's see. So I want to see how I can rotate these easily. So with the gizmo is going to be on the particular shape and not in the middle of the whole ring. So that's the tricky part. So I wonder if I can go here. I wonder if I can bake this and then do pivot, center, or auto, pivot. No, pivot, auto, pivot. Looks like it's still not in the center. Okay. All right. So, okay, so the easy, I'm going to do there's probably a smarter way to do it. I'm going to bring all these out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to clone that radial. Clone, clone, clone. And I'm going to give these each all their own radial. Oh, and I actually did it perfect. So now that they're their own radials, let's validate them. Oh, there's two down here. So I'm going to make sure I give them their own radials. Okay, so this is the top. I'll leave those alone for now. Okay, so we have that one, we have this one. Now if we go to pivot, center, pivot, so all of these, I think I want to make sure that we're going to be in the center. Yeah, so we want all of them to be in the center. See how if I go to this next one, see how it's not in the center? But if I go to pivot, auto, or pivot center, pivot, now it's in the center. So I want to make sure I do that for all of them. I remember when I first made this, I can remember first making this little pineapple and trying to figure out a way to make it like cute, but still like make sense, you know? I remember that. So these are stalks. So I'm actually going to just nestle those together. Okay, so this second one, so what I want to do is rotate them a little bit so they're a little more fun. So at least they're not like just completely lined up. Some of them like, I feel like I need to stretch them, but that's okay. There we go. Nice. And of course you can go into any of these now and if with like move, and I can, if I want to pull some of these out so that they look a bit better, you can do that and you can edit it, but you get the idea. I actually really like making pineapples. I think it's so much fun actually. So let's save this. And now we could place it. Maybe we should place it. So radials, this one, these are the stalks. All of these, I'm just going to join. Pineapple scales. I'll just nestle that with the pineapple. So now I can take the whole pineapple and move it wherever I need to move it. And actually, let's, since I love it so much, pineapple scales, I do like it a lot. I think I'm going to clone it. I think I'm going to export it as a stalk, pineapple scales, pineapple stalk. I'm just going to, do I want to join it? I'm going to export GLTF, selected, export. I'm just going to save to files. I think I have a Nomad file. Pineapple, cute. And I'll just save it. Why not? We can do what we want. All right, so now I can move it. Oh, it's huge. Let's make it a little smaller. Make it maybe a little more squat. We'll give it a little rotate action. Maybe we move it up a little bit. Actually, it's cute that it's like kind of tucked next to his little belly. But it's like tucked back some. Yeah, it's like there. So let's take the arm and rotate. We'll rotate that back. Maybe rotate it this way a little bit. And then I'm just going to take move, and I'm going to move the hand onto the pineapple. I want it nice and touching so that it looks like he's properly handling the pineapple. Sometimes it can be a little bit tricky working with the move tool if it's really big. So, just take your time and adjust these little fingers. You don't want them like really going through too much. They can go through a little bit, but if they're going through too much, it might look weird. But that looks pretty good. Ooh, you know what else I notice? If I take the pineapple, I want to rotate it forward a bit. Okay, let's go back here and just make any adjustments that I need to make. Let's use X-ray. This doesn't look too bad, actually. I think it looks pretty good. This bugs me though. See, it's a little bit too much. I can probably just edit it here, to be honest with you. Because these are just kind of going through a little too much for my liking. I'll take his little plump finger out a little bit. Okay. Really happy. If I make it smaller, let's see. Oh, the mouth is, it's a good way to kind of see what the differences are. The mouth is a little too big still, so we'll make that smaller. The hand is also turned a little bit more. These fingers, I want to be, usually they're flat on one side, and this side is round, so that's better. Flat on one side, round on the other. And I can honestly rotate this a little bit more. Okay, that seems better. So now I'm just going to take move and just move the top part of this a little bit more into the body. Okay, that looks good. Nice. So I'm going to save. And let's just do some color. So of course I sculpted it in Nomad, but this is a Blender render, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a Blender render. But we can get decently close in Nomad. So let's just, okay, here's the floor. Let's validate. So we have all these. Check the size of those. Make them a tad bit smaller. And I'll validate. So we're just going to validate all of our pieces here. I'm going to leave the sphere because I might want to change it. Ears look good. Ear puffs look good, but I need to name these now. Because I didn't name the mirrors before. Ears. I can nestle ear puffs under the ears. Legs, I'm going to validate. You know what I was thinking? I kind of want to merge all these things together, but I was going to do some tricky stuff, but I guess I don't really need to do that for this tutorial. Definitely not. What is this tube? Let me delete that. Okay, yeah, so we're pretty good. So let's just paint everything. So select everything. We'll go to this little cube down here. And I'm just going to use a neutral color for now that I always use, kind of a terracotta. Maybe I'll go a little bit lighter this time. Paint all. The reason I'm doing this is so we can set the lights on a more neutral color than white. So I'm going to go here to this little sun, turn off the environment, and then add the first light. This I'm going to set to 2.5. You can also just slide this. So 2.5-ish. I'm going to hit align. That just makes the lights easier to move around. Doesn't matter where these directional lights are. Whoops. The only thing that matters is, come on, there we go. The only thing that matters is where this white arrow is pointing. I think I just mumbled really bad. The only thing that matters is where this white arrow is pointing. So the rotation is what matters. But I like the default. So if we go back to the sun, this is our first light. We're going to tap the pencil and change it to key. That's the key light. That's the main light in the scene. We're going to tap the 3 dots on the right of the light and hit camera. And the reason I'm doing that is so when we do a turntable, the lights stay in place. I always felt that this was counterintuitive because if you see fixed, then it's like, oh, okay, the lights are fixed in place. They're not going to move. But it's the reverse. If they're fixed, then they're fixed to the camera. If that makes sense. Like they're going to move with the character. But if you put it to camera, then there will stay in place. So you don't have to worry about it. If you're going to do a turntable, it's better to do camera. So now we'll duplicate this, and I'm just going to name this rim. Let me hide my tools, and we're going to move this light over so we don't get them confused. Move it right there, and then just rotate until you get a rim of light on the side. Beautiful. I might make this one 5, the intensity of the light. And maybe we'll clone this and name this one R2. Of course, the next one's going to be D2. And maybe for this one, we'll just rotate it a little bit more, maybe down some. Maybe we'll do something like that. You can also change the colors of these too. Let's see. So if we want to change the background, we just had this little picture here. Tap here, and maybe we want to set a similar color. That's a decent match. Okay, let me refocus and make sure it still looks good. Okay. And we have another light that we can add, so why not add it? So let's clone this and call this one D2. So we have R2, D2 for the last 2 lights, and maybe we want to just add a little bit more light, maybe maybe we'll do it over here, but we'll lower it. Okay, so we do it there, but we'll just lower it. All right, so now we can color it. Let's go ahead and, so if you want, you can take like the head. What is the sphere? Oh, this is the mouth. See what happens? I'm not labeling things like a Dumbo. So the mouth is here. The lashes, oh, we can validate those. Eyes, arm, arm up. I'm just going to select the arm, arm up, the head, the body, the ears, and the legs. I think that's everything. So we're going to make this a nice light pink. If it will let me move this over. So we'll try to match that pink color that I love. Oh, you know what's happening? Let's paint it. Get it close. And then let's go to the sun here and turn back on our environment. I'm going to turn mine a little bit down. Of course, this is my custom environment, so yours might look a little bit different. So we'll turn the environment on, and then let's go to this little shutter and turn on post-process. And the reason I'm turning it on is just so you can see what it looks like as a rendered image, pretty much. So if you have a slower device, you might have to do this at the very end. If you have a pretty good iPad or something, or a pretty good tablet, then you should be fine. These are my settings, so you can take a look. But I think that's it. These tend to change depending on what project I'm working on, but that's what they look like for this. So now you can see it looks a little bit closer. Are these all still selected? They are. So now when you go into paint, it's a little easier to maybe try and match that. I feel like I put a little bit of metalness in him, maybe. I think. I want to slide the metalness a little bit. I think that's a pretty good match. So yeah, try to match it to the best of your ability, or not if you don't want to. The ear puffs, I think they're just like a little bit darker. And there's definitely some metalness in there. So we'll paint that. The box. Maybe we'll just make the box like a yellow color. Maybe we'll try to make it blend in a little bit. Maybe we'll make it rough. Turn the metalness down. I don't know, why not? The pineapple is yellow on the inside. So I think it's more of the greenish yellow, I think. So we'll paint that, and then these little rings. Oh, good, they're all together, right? Pineapple scales. Those are a little bit more of a greenish color. So we'll just scroll up to green. Feels like that's the right color for them, but the body is a little bit more golden yellow. And then the top is green. Oh, why is the pivot all the way down there? Center pivot. So this is more green. Oh. Let's make sure we get all the stalks. And then we can paint them green. Paint, it looks like it's a little bit more of a yellowish green. Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good. The eyelashes, of course, are black. I like to do rough. I don't want any like shadows really coming out of them. The pupils are also black, but we're going to do the opposite, make them glossy. And then the eye whites are going to be white and glossy. This is a nice kind of candy brown color. That just kind of worked. Looks like it's a little dark, maybe around there. And these, pivot, auto pivot. So these are going to be like a pinkish red color. So we'll paint it that color, but we're going to take the eye dots and clone them and rename one of them to eye dots glow. So eye dots glow, we're going to change the material to an additive and hit always unlit. And we'll raise the opacity, which you can't really see unfortunately. But so they would be glowing if it was a darker scene, I think. Let's see what happens if I turn this off. Can you see it a little bit more? Oh well. That's one of the things where Blender is kind of comes in handy, doing things like that. You can go into the environment and you can change the rotation a little bit to match. I made the background because I love the way that this round bounce looks, so I made that particularly for when I'm sculpting because I really like it. But I think that's about it. Let me turn this environment back up a little bit. I feel like it's still kind of... Oh, another thing I wanted to do, you can change these to subsurface. You can adjust the depth. See, if you bring it all the way up, they're kind of more see-through. But a lot of times what that does, I'm going to put it at point... Let's see... 0.22 or so. I should have just done it for all of them. But what it does is it kind of keeps the shadows from being really dark black. That's why I like to do it. Subsurface. This arm. We'll do subsurface, and the ears too. We'll do subsurface. Okay. And there you have it. I think it's really, really, really cute. Let's go ahead and I'm going to hide the reference. I'm going to take the little camera, hit add, and then rename this to 1. So I'm just adding a camera view. So if I mess around with it, you can just go back here and hit 1. So all you got to do is add a camera view. But post-process is on, right? Post-process is, post-process is on. I'm going to turn this little floor. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to make the background a little more like pale, I think. No, actually, I don't like it pale. I think I like that. Let me save this. And if you want to export an image, so I want to do one with transparent background, so I'll do that and I'll export. So this is going to count to 350. This number correlates with, in the post-process thing on the top, it'll say samples. Whatever you set that number to is what this number will be. The higher, like the better quality, but I usually just do 350. It seems to be fine. Okay, now we can just hit, I can save it. And then if you want to do a turntable, let's just go to this little option here. If you're on an iPad, you can do your screen record. It'll look better. And then I'll just do 000 and turntable. And then we have our little turntable. Oh, it looks like he's not in the center. I gotta fix that. Why is he not in the center? Grid. I gotta change this background. Oh, see? The center's here, it looks like. And his feet are not in the center directly. So I'm going to take everything, including the lights and the cameras, because we want those to stay where they are. Oh, come on, please let me move it. I don't know why the gizmo's all the way out there, but that's okay. So I'm gonna move him forward so that the middle is in the middle of his feet. So that should be all we need to do. Turn the grid off. I guess I gotta put it back to that color. Oh, and another thing, since we're here, I want to take some of these lights and make them match the yellow. So it looks like, so it kind of just looks a little bit more natural. Make them a little bit yellow, and then there's this light. I'll make that a little bit yellow too. And I'm just doing this so it makes like, so it looks like the light is kind of part of the environment. That's pretty much what I'm doing. Okay, looks good, looks cute. Why does the mouse still look too big to me? And what is the color? I'll use the eyedropper and see. Oh, it is shiny. Okay. Okay, looks good. All right, I'm gonna save this now. And now when I go back here, it should be centered. You want your turntable to be centered. Okay, that's better. That's better. So it's not like kind of going around in a circle. All right, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed it. Keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to go more in depth, then definitely check out my Skillshare classes where I am a top teacher. I have about 50 classes, both Procreate and Nomad Sculpt. I also have a few classes on Udemy, so if you want to learn more, or you just like my style, you like the way I teach, you want to support me, those are some other places that you can do it. Thanks again, keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video.